Morning, Rob Newton again, Pinnacle Solutions. Hope people are well and keeping safe. Today we've got another one of our mini training sessions, just with some extracts from our time management workshop. What I'd like you to think of as we're going through the workshop, not just about yourself, many of the things that we'll cover you'll already be doing, but also think of it as how you can utilize it with your team to make them slightly more effective and maybe help them get more out of the day. So what I'm going to do is just quickly share with you my screen. I hope people can now see that. Just to move this box down so it's not. Okay. As the caption says there with time management, we can never change time, only use it to a greater gain. And that's so important when we think about the working day. Whether we're working 8, 10, 12 hours a day, we've got to look at how we get the most out of that time and how we also focus on what the most important things are. I always think with anybody who's in leadership, before we can ever manage anything, we have to first and foremost manage ourselves. And this includes obviously managing the most important thing, which is our time. I do believe it's a state of mind, how we approach time management, how we approach prioritizing what we're going to work on and sticking to those priorities during the day. We have to be focused, but we also have to control our impulses and stick to what we've put down as being most important. Throughout the day, we're hit by hundreds of things. You know, if we're working in, say, an electrical wholesaler, we've got customers walking in and out. If we're a salesperson out on the road, the phone's ringing, customers are demanding things now. Everybody wants our time immediately, but that might not be the most important thing that we should be working on at that time. So what we need to do is think how we can control that. We need to sometimes press the old pause button and just take a moment to think before we press the answer phone, the green button on the phone, before we get up and go and work on or serve on the trade counter. We just need to take a moment and think, is this the best use of my time right now? Do I need to do this? We have to invest time for managing our time. That might sound like a daft statement, but we need to commit time every day to actually planning what we're going to do during that day. Planning our to-do list, planning our priorities, and also planning for our team as well and making sure that they're managing their time. Your team will definitely follow your example. If you instill good time management and good organization skills within your team, then they will become more effective. You'll become more effective and definitely more profitable as a business. So what we're going to do, we're just going to look at a few time management tips. First of all, make time management your number one priority. What we have to do is think every morning before we set off, what am I going to do today? What am I going to achieve during this day? Start every day with a to-do list. I know a lot of people will say, I've got a to-do list, or I use a to-do list. I tend to find in a lot of my training, people use to-do lists ad hocly. Occasionally they'll do one, occasionally during the day they'll add to it, but they're not using it as a religious reference point where they keep going back to it. And a to-do list is so important. If we take the older example of someone going to the shops, one thing that we'll all have been doing more recently, you have the person who turns up without a shopping list. Remarkably, they normally forget half of the things that they wanted and come back with half of the things that they didn't need. The person who takes a list and sticks to it, more often than not, comes back with exactly what they wanted, unless the shop doesn't have it. But they also don't come back or do things that weren't on the list. So think about it in those basic terms. We can use a to-do list either via a program like Outlook or Task Manager, or we can just have a simple list in a Word document. I would recommend using some electronic form rather than writing it out every day, purely because it makes it easier. I personally use a Word document. It means that I can copy and paste tasks over that haven't been completed. I know some people do use Outlook, which is a fantastic, or tasks in Apple and things like that. So ensure your to-do list runs for a minimum of 5 days. Again, a lot of people have a to-do list which is just for today. So many of the tasks that we'll get hit with don't actually need doing today. But there's also the side of things of, if we've asked somebody to do something and we've gave them a time scale of maybe doing it by Friday, we need to be recording that somewhere to say that I need to check up on that task that I've delegated to somebody. It might be that a supplier has said to us that they'll come back to us on a certain day, or a customer's asked us to ring them on a certain day. A to-do list needs to be running consecutively. I would personally say a minimum of 5 days. You know, again, personally, I use one that runs 10 days. That doesn't mean I'm planning 10 days in advance all the time, but there are certain things that I think that actually I will give that person a ring in 2 weeks' time to follow up on something. I need to be able to put it somewhere. Be assertive with yourself and be assertive with others. The person that controls your time is yourself. You decide whether you work on a task or whether you drop a task and work on something else. There's obviously influences from your direct managers, your customers, your family even, but what you have to do, you have to be assertive. And one of the big things that we have to do is we have to stick to it. We have to create a habit of using a to-do list and prioritizing our work. People say, again, it takes 6 weeks to make or break a habit. So it's something that we have to start doing and we have to stick to and do it every day. One of the big things once we've got our task list is making sure that we prioritize our tasks. Again, having 20 things on a list. If we've just got a list and no priorities, people will attack it in a few ways. Some people will go from the top down. Some people madly will go from the bottom up. Others will pick off the tasks that they know are easiest to do or least time consuming or the ones that they like doing. So here's just a very simple way of prioritizing your task. Basically breaking it into 5 different stages. So an A task is a task of the highest importance that must be completed today. You may have a number of these. These are things that are critical to the business. And like I say, they've got completed or be completed before we walk out of the door at whatever time we're finishing. An A task can be delegated to somebody, but it still remains an A task and it still remains your responsibility to make sure that it happens. If we've got more than one, again, prioritize or number them 1, 2, 3, 4, for instance. Next type of task that we will have is a B task. A B task is an important task, but it doesn't necessarily need completing today. Ideally, we'd like to do it today. And as we said, it's an important thing that needs doing for the business. But like we said, it can maybe wait until tomorrow. It could wait until later in the week. Some of your B tasks today will become your A tasks tomorrow. So we can then have a C task. A C task is something that would be nice to do, but it's by no means critical to the business. It's not highly important. Quite often these will be things that you will get round to as and when you have some spare time. I often find with C tasks, you know, they would be nice to do, but I actually never get round to doing them. So one of the most important tasks for any manager or leader is a D task. A D task is a task that can be delegated. And again, we really need to look at our task list and think first and foremost, you know, what can we delegate? What could somebody else do? If we give a task away, we might have to give somebody a little bit of training on it, but at the end of the day, in the long term, it will save us time. So be bloody minded with your task list. Think about it really stringently and think, what can you give away? Another huge task is one that quite often we don't think of, and that's an E task. An E task is a time waster or something that just doesn't need our time or our focus. This can be a customer that pops in to see us. It can be a member of staff, somebody in the office who likes a chat. Or it can be something that we end up working on that we should have delegated that we're just doing because we actually enjoy doing it. So when we go through our task list, we need to prioritize, and then we need to focus on the A tasks as a starting point, and then slowly working through the lists on the B tasks. So focus on your list and add new tasks accordingly. As I said right at the beginning, we're hit by hundreds of things. So what we've got to be careful is that we don't just jump on the next task and the next task, the next phone call, and just focus on that, and then actually forget what we actually put down at the beginning of the day. Set realistic and achievable deadlines. Again, there's no point in setting out your day to say I'm going to get 50 tasks done when you only have the actual time to achieve 5 or 10 of them. So be realistic. Be realistic as well when you delegate into the team, and make sure that deadlines you set in both yourself and your team are definitely achievable. Also think about how you create habits and work to habits. As we all know, when something becomes a habit, it becomes easy. So thinking about creating certain tasks that you do on certain days of the week, every week, makes it become a habit. And then we don't actually have to think about it as much as we're going through the week. So thinking about then when we go through, spend the first 10 minutes of your day preparing your to-do list for the day. Go through your emails, go through your day book, look at what wasn't completed yesterday. Add anything, any new tasks that have come in, any messages that you've had, or anything that you've thought of during the evening. If you're like most of us, many of the ideas, many of the things that you need to do come to you normally about 10 minutes before you're trying to go to sleep. So spend the last 10 minutes of every day as well reviewing your to-do list. Go through it. Check off what you have done. See if there's anything that you've missed. If there is something that you've missed, does it need doing, or is it customer related? Do you need to contact a customer and say, look, I'm very sorry, haven't been able to do this? Or do you need to maybe work a little bit later that day just to complete 1 or 2 tasks? Do any conflict tasks that you've got first. Focus on the ones that you know are going to cause you the most conflict, or sometimes the ones that are the most, the toughest to do. We normally work best first thing in the morning when we're energized. So think about how you get the conflict tasks, how you get the hard tasks out of the way. By doing the conflict tasks, you won't be focusing on them through the day or thinking about them as the day goes on. Another thing to think about as well, excuse me 1 second. Think about how we can leave work with a clear mind. As I said, that last 10-minute review is in order so that we actually make sure that we're ticking things off and we're not having to take things home with us. Nearly an impossible task for any leader, I know, but it's making sure that we can leave work with a clear mind. It's getting your team as well to do things as you do and not as they wish to do. Again, your team at the end of the day should be checking through their day books, should be checking through their to-do list, should be making sure that they finished all of their tasks, especially the A tasks. They've got to be completed before we leave the office or leave the branch. So by doing this, we also need to make sure that we don't plan for every hour in the day. We know we're going to get hit by things during the day. We know every day we're going to have phone calls, we're going to have tasks that we're going to have, things that are requested by customers, by members of staff, by our boss, etc. So there's no point in filling yourself up with 8 or 10 hours worth of work. Think about how you can look at it realistically. If you plan for 50% of your time, you'll be doing very well to still stick to that plan. Prioritize new tasks as they arrive during the day. So as a task comes in, think about where it fits on your to-do list. Think, is it an A task? Is it a B task? Does it take priority over something that you've promised to a customer maybe a day before or 3 days before? Always think about that. You know, how's it going to fit into my current to-do list? So when it comes to what you'll gain from actually spending a bit more time and focusing and planning on your time management, it will actually result in you having more time. The more focused you are and the more structured you approach your time management and planning, you'll actually end up with more time because you'll be focusing on getting the most important things done. A to-do list will definitely mean that we forget less. We all forget things. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. The one thing that stops us doing it is one of the best inventions ever, which is a pen and a piece of paper, or nowadays a laptop or a computer, and actually writing it down. It stops us forgetting, obviously, provided we go back to our list. By forgetting less, by being more organized, we'll definitely have less stress. There is no doubt about that. Less stress is better for our well-being, it's better for our management, it's better for our success as well. We'll be more in control of our time, and we'll be less reactive. Again, thinking back to that pause button, pressing stop for a moment and just taking a moment and just thinking, is this the best use of my time right now? We'll focus on the most important tasks. The ABC ensures that we do this. We actually look at the A tasks, which are the most important, and quite often the A tasks will bring us the most reward, especially when it comes to customer and staff time. There's no doubt about that. You normally tend to find that you'll get 80% of the A tasks will bring you 80% of your reward, but will most probably only take about 20% of your time. The other thing, by doing the review at the end of the day and making sure all our team works the same way, we'll end up with a more effective team. Everybody will utilize their time better. We'll waste less time. We'll be less reactive. Our team will forget less. The other thing that we'll also do by taking this approach is have less of the oh my OMG or oh my God moments. These are the times that we all get and have all experienced. Normally they come last thing in the evening, just before we're about to go to bed, or 9 o'clock when we're just about to start watching something on telly. And the OMG moment is when we all of a sudden remember that we should have done what we should have done that day. Something flicks back into our mind and it's, oh my God, I forgot to ring that customer. I forgot to do this. I forgot to do that. They always hit us at a time when we can do nothing about it as well. Like I said, normally just before we try and go to sleep. So by reviewing our to-do list, by making sure everybody's working to the same way, we will actually have less of those OMG moments. The biggest thing of all, of course, while it'll help us, it will also improve the customer service. And there is no doubt if everybody in the team adopts these simple tips, we will actually improve our sales as well, because we'll be more effective and more customer focused. So, okay, that's really it. Like I said, a short little sharp thing on time management. I hope it's of, as always, it's of use. I'd love, as always, any feedback that we could get from people. If anybody wants any more information on any of our learning and development offer, any of our apprenticeship side of things, please just give us a ring. That's our phone number, or contact us via the web. In closing, stay safe, keep your family safe, and here's to everybody's business succeeding and at these difficult times, you know, coming out stronger than what we went into it. Thanks. See you soon.